I will now call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Texas Southmost College District. Trustees present tonight are Ms. Adela Garza, Mr. Rene Torres, Mr. Trey Mendez, Dr. Reynaldo Garcia, Mr. Ramon Champion Hinojosa. Also present is Dr. Lili Tercero, President of Texas Southmost College. Absent is Dr. Robert Lozano. Item number 2, announcements. Do we have any announcements? No announcements. Item number 3, public comments. Max, did anybody sign up for public comments? No public comments. Item number 4, mission statement. Statement of mission. Texas Southmost College is a comprehensive open admissions public community college whose mission comports with the state statute subchapter A, section 130. Texas Southmost College offers programs leading to certificates of completion and associate's degrees, developmental education to prepare students for college-level work, occupational and technical programs to prepare students for immediate employment, academic courses of study to develop the core skills, understanding, and knowledge appropriate for baccalaureate programs, and continued education, counseling, guidance, adult literacy, and personal enrichment. Texas Southmost College advances economic and social development, enhances the quality of life, encourages respect for the environment, cultivates personal enrichment, expands knowledge in service of its community, to its community. It convenes the cultures of its community and fosters an appreciation of the unique heritage of the lower Rio Grande Valley. It provides academic leadership in the intellectual, social, cultural, and economic life of the region it serves. Texas Southmost College places excellence in teaching and learning at the core of its commitment. It seeks to help students at all levels develop the skills which will sustain lifelong learning while respecting the dignity of each learner and the needs of the entire community. Item number 5, consideration and approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 21st, 2012, and then the special meeting of May 31st, 2012, and the special meeting of June 12th, 2012.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Mendez. I have a second by Mr. Torres. Any discussion?
I think I was absent in one of those, wasn't I?
Yes. You'd like to abstain from the one you were absent on? We'll take the vote for the 3 meetings together anyway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. Garza abstains from the meeting that she was not present at. Item number 6, consideration approval of election of officers of the Board of Trustees. The positions are Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary. I would like to open the floor for nominations for each of the positions, and I'd like to state that with the support of my board and at the pleasure of my fellow trustees, I'd like to continue as chairman. So, but I open it for nominations and discussion.
I think you've done an excellent job.
I appreciate it.
Given everything we've gone through, I think you took the punch as well. You did well, and I don't mind having you again because you're a good punching bag.
Thank you. I appreciate
so you got
that.
your nomination?
I like to nominate Mr. Reno.
Is it too late to nominate Dr. Robles?
You promised that.
Be nice, my friend.
See you later.
So for Vice Chair and for Secretary?
I'd nominate Adela Garza for Vice Chair.
We're going to take them all together.
I don't know.
If there's no objections, we can work on all of them together. And then the
Do you want to do them separate?
Oh, we can do it together.
I think we should do it separate. No? Or you want to do it together?
Whichever you prefer.
We can do it together.
Do it all together.
Let's do it all together then.
Okay.
So we have nomination for myself as Chair, Ms. Adela Garza for Vice Chair.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Trey Mendez for Secretary because I know that Mr. Torres doesn't want anything to do with officers. Or, you tell me.
Oh,
Being a member to me is an officer, so.
We all have one vote, so we're all equal.
Exactly. Yeah. But
I concur with your nomination.
So the nomination.
I'll accept if Rene doesn't want to do it. I think we should, he's got seniority, so if he wants to take that, I'm perfectly fine with that.
No, I concur with your nomination of Trey Mendez as the Secretary.
So we have a nomination for myself as Chair, Ms. Garza as Vice Chair, and Mr. Mendez as Secretary. Any discussion? I guess we have a nomination. We need a motion and a second on that. We have a nomination, so I need a motion.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Dr. Garcia.
Second.
I got a second by Mr. Hinojosa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 7, consideration and approval of TSC District Trustee Scholarship. I call on Dr. Lily F. Tercero, President, to present this item. Dr. Tercero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, I wanted to give you a little bit of history here. In fall of 1991 and spring of 1992, the in-district tuition at TSC was $14 per semester credit hour with a minimum charge of $70. It was right before the partnership occurred. When the partnership was formed in 1992, a well-defined distinction between students taking lower division classes and students taking upper division classes continued because UTB at the time, when it was initially authorized in 1991 by the state of Texas, was authorized to offer only upper division courses. However, from the very beginning, when the TSC Board of Trustees basically entered into the partnership, they recognized the importance of providing lower tuition for those in-district community college students. And those were defined as students taking the lower division courses. And at the time, it was very easy to distinguish. To ensure that these students, these in-district students, were not going to have to pay university rates, the Board of Trustees, the TSC Board of Trustees, began transferring funds over to UTB at the very beginning of this partnership so that these students could receive what they called a tuition subsidy. This level of support provided by this tuition subsidy was actually 58% of the upper level tuition. At the time, you could define that as the UTB tuition. This action, because you did this action, it allowed for separate tuition tables to continue in the early years of the partnership. And so if you go back and look at catalogs, you will see that there was a upper division tuition rate and a lower division tuition table, and rate. In 1997, the 75th legislature passed Senate Bill 274. They authorized UTB to begin offering lower division courses. As a result, UTB began offering freshman and sophomore courses, those that were normally and generally are defined as lower division courses. While the classification of TSC students became a bit more complicated, because now both entities were offering the same lower level division courses, the tuition subsidy continued to be provided by the TSC Board of Trustees, and different tuition tables continued to be maintained. In June 2007, the UTB-TSC Academic Affairs Partnership Committee recommended that the Board of Trustees consider changing the manner in which it was providing this tuition subsidy to in-district students. And based on this recommendation, in September of 2007, the Board of Trustees approved converting the tuition subsidy into a TSC Trustees scholarship. Additionally, the eligibility criteria changed. The TSC Board of Trustees began providing financial assistance to not only in-district students taking the lower division courses, who were also meeting the satisfactory academic progress standards, but also to in-district students taking 15 or more semester credit hours in upper division courses during the spring and fall semesters, and who also were doing basically the academic, satisfactory academic progress. This amount approved by the board was $19 per semester credit hour, and it became effective in spring of 2008. Additionally, this item was scheduled to be reviewed each year by the Board of Trustees during the annual budget cycle. And so here at today's board meeting, and as part of this annual process, the Board of Trustees has the option of continuing or changing this previously approved board action. Now, the modifications that you have in terms of options would include changing the amount of the subsidy provided, changing the criteria and the eligibility, and or changing how the subsidy is defined. Given that TSC and UTB are on a path of becoming operationally independent by fall 2013, TSC staff recommends that the Board of Trustees continue to provide financial assistance at the current rate of $19 per semester credit hour to in-district students, which are those students residing in TSC's taxing district, who are taking career and technical education courses and developmental education courses, and meeting the satisfactory academic progress standards as previously defined, and that this financial assistance be provided in the form of a tuition subsidy for the fall of 2012 and the spring of 2013, after which time the tuition subsidy will no longer be offered. We believe this change will provide TSC students with direct assistance from the college during this transition process, particularly as the institution moves to becoming operationally independent in fall of 13. In the next few months, we will bring forth recommendations regarding our tuition rates. While the tuition rate has not yet been set, we can confirm to you that the rate will be lower than what students that currently attending UTB TSC are paying. And just wanted to let you know on a final note that from a planning perspective, discussions were held last year with the UT transition team regarding this issue. And it was indicated at that time that this tuition subsidy would likely change during this budget period. So they were aware of this early on last year. So that is our recommendation regarding this, this item. But got to answer any questions.
What was the recommendation to continue the $19 subsidy? That's per semester credit hour, and that's for developmental and who else?
It's to recommend the provide the financial assistance at the current rate of $19 per semester credit hour to in-district students who are taking career and technical education courses and developmental education courses, and meeting the satisfactory academic progress standards as previously defined.
Were those two groups of students included before the career, technical, and developmental students in this process?
The way that was originally set up was that it was set up to provide the tuition subsidy for students taking lower division courses. So my assumption is that that would have been, yes.
It wasn't specified though.
No, it just said lower division.
It just said lower division.
Yes. Because those students that are taking career and technical courses are lower division, my assumption is that that would have occurred. We don't have the details at this time. We can, get that for you, but that is our assumption. The other part of the recommendation is that this financial assistance be provided in the form of a tuition subsidy for fall 12 and for spring 13, and after which time the tuition subsidy will no longer be offered, because we'll be moving toward lower tuition rates.
Well, I think that needs to be said that all our students, we're not taking away anything from our students, because in 2013, when we become operational, all our students will be getting a scholarship in essence, because 100% of our students will be getting a discount on their tuition and fees. So in essence, we're not taking away anything, but we're adding a lot more students into the process of lowering the tuition and fees with what we're doing as far as looking at lowering the tuition and fees, and not necessarily all at one time, but within phases in the lower tuition and fees. So I think what needs to be clarified is that we're not taking away anything from any of the students. We're including more students in the process of lowering the tuition and fees.
We are being very specific in what we're offering for the fall 12 and spring 13. What we're saying is that because we're in the transition process, we only recommend that students taking career and technical courses be offered the tuition subsidy, and developmental education students, because we know that those students are, in fact, truly will be TSC students. All the other students we're not sure of. This is an optimal approach to take during this short transition period.
But that's for this fall.
Yes, ma'am. And spring.
To clarify, if I understand correctly, what you were trying to clarify was in August of 13,
Right.
once we have the in-district tuition and the lower tuition,
Right.
then everybody will be, who comes to TSC will have that available to. And I'd like to clarify also, Dr. Tercero, you talked about coming to us with a lower tuition in the future.
Yes, sir.
But I'd like to clarify to everybody listening that you're working on the numbers to make sure that the lower tuition that we will be offering will be without increasing the effective tax rate.
Yes,
And that's
sir.
the parameter that we're working with.
Yes, no increases to the tax.
I just wanted to clarify so everybody's aware of that.
Taxes, Yes.
That is a commitment that we made when we all ran, that we would really try not to raise taxes, and I think we've been true to our word so far. Rene?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we just now have to come through with a promise of the new tuition.
Okay, we will.
That's why we hired Dr. Tercero.
She knows the numbers.
And check.
Any other questions?
So
Yeah.
these career and technical education and developmental education, those are the ones that we know for certain would be TSC students, right?
Yes.
So the real, the purpose of this is really to make sure that the TSC students are going to be the ones that are benefiting from this. Okay.
Do we have a motion along the recommendations of Dr. Tercero or any?
Yes, I move that we accept the recommendation of Dr. Tercero as presented or as written.
And just to clarify, then that's I was writing it down. It's a $19 tuition subsidy per semester credit hour for in-district students that are taking career and technical education and developmental education.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned as written, so, or as presented.
So then I've got a motion by Mr. Torres. Do I have a second by Mr. Hinojosa to accept the recommendations of Dr. Tercero as presented for the lower tuition, for the subsidy, I'm sorry. It's for the tuition subsidy of $19 credit hour?
For credit hour?
Could you repeat?
Yes, sir.
That way I can understand.
Right here. Start it.
Provide financial assistance in the in-district students taking lower division courses who are meeting satisfactory academic progress standards, but also in-district students taking 15 or more.
No, it's yeah.
What's going on there? Staff recommends.
Okay. So then the motion by Mr. Torres on the staff recommendation is the TSC staff recommends that the Board of Trustees continue providing financial assistance at the current rate at $19 per scheduled credit hour to semester credit hour to in-district students who are taking career and technical education courses and developmental education courses and meet satisfactory academic standards as previously defined, and that this financial assistance be provided in the form of a tuition subsidy for the fall 2012 and spring 2013 semesters, after which time the tuition subsidy will no longer be offered. So I have a motion by Mr. Torres, a second by Mr. Hinojosa. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you, Dr. Tercero.
Thank you.
Item number 8, consideration and approval of proposal for parking lot and sidewalk repairs. I call on Mr. Chet Lewis, Vice President of Administration and Finance, to present the item. Mr. Lewis.
Chairman, Trustees, and President Cicero. We went out for bid for repairs for our parking lot and sidewalk repairs. And the reason we went out for bid is because through the course of the year, individual projects may be less than $25,000, but potentially in aggregate they may be $25,000 or more. So we went ahead and we want to start the practice of anything that we're going to be doing that may potentially have $25,000 or more purchases, that we do a formal RFP so people have the ability to respond in a formal process. We received 3 responses to this bid. Joey Barra Construction, G&T Paving, LLC, and FJW Construction, LLC. Of the 3 bids, the Joey Barra Construction had not filled out their execution of offer. And also, when we followed up with them, their pricing was contingent upon a certain level of business that they were estimating was going to incur. And therefore, the bid was not compliant in the specifications we had set forth. When we had reviewed the other two, G&T Paving and FJ Construction LLC, the staff has made a recommendation that we believe that the best value for the upcoming year would be to accept the bid from FJW Construction LLC.
Where is that from?
Let me see where they're located.
McAllen.
That's right.
I have a problem with that. GT is local.
But look at the price difference. There's only, in my opinion.
Okay, there's a big price difference.
It's on tab number 3.
Yeah, there's a pretty significant price difference.
Okay.
Depending on the amount of square footage that we're going for, it can
I know.
end up costing quite a bit. If all things were equal, I think personally, I'm going for the lower price. I think we need to save a little bit of money. If all things were equal, I'd probably give a preference to something local, but I think staff's recommending the FJW.
Yep. Based on the value of the pricing.
Do we have any idea how much work there is that needs to be done?
I know there's a couple of projects where we have some major potholes, but if I were to guess in the upcoming year, I think we may exceed the 25,000, maybe 25 to 35,000. But again, it's going to depend on once we look at the specific parameters of the project. So I don't want to say an exact amount, but it should be within that range.
And the Joey Votto actually I think, had the lowest bid overall, right? Well, I think they were a little bit higher on a paver, but what was it that they didn't do?
Essentially, in their bid, first of all, they didn't complete the bid package. They didn't do the execution of offer.
Okay.
And the second part is when staff inquired about their bid, their pricing was specific to a guaranteed certain level of work, whereas that's not how the bid was set forth, and also the bid was not intended to guarantee a specific amount of work. We wanted the pricing so we can approach things as they come up.
Right, it's almost like an as-needed. It could be 100 square feet, it could be 10,000. We just don't know yet, right?
Exactly.
Who's going to determine what needs to be done?
We'll review that with our facility staff and also any input we are also receiving with UTV on issues. But like I said, I am aware, I had received a complaint on one of them, and that's why we went around and tried to estimate what potential work we would have. So just to make sure that we're compliant with the state bidding laws, we went ahead and did an RFP rather than just executing one piece of work.
Yeah, so the contractor's not going to be the one that decides what work they're going to do. We're going to tell them what work needs to be done.
Correct.
Okay.
So the higher, the Ibarra cost was based on a higher square footage amount? Is that basically what you were trying to say? They had considered a larger square footage?
When they put their response in, it was based on some exact estimates, and then they had gone around and made some estimates based on what they saw as potential projects. And so then when we acquired, would this be a set price regardless of the amount, the staff received a response that the pricing would vary depending on the size of the project.
Now, FJW has 2 different levels of pricing.
We had not requested that, but they had added that if there's any items that are larger, that they went ahead and included that in there, and we'll take that into consideration when we look at the projects themselves.
Also, with them, if we give them more volume, they give us a discount.
Well, one of the things that when we looked at this too is we next time what we want to do is put this on an annual basis. And so when we do this next time, we'll put some variations of sizes, so we can take that into consideration also.
So a recommendation from staff to select FJW Construction LLC to provide parking lot and sidewalk repairs and authorize the president to execute a contract for 1 year according to the requested scope and unit price as submitted.
Move.
Do you have a motion for that? I've got a motion from Ms. Garza. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I've got a second by Mr. Mendez. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Before going to the next item, on the tuition subsidy, Dr. Tercero?
Yes, sir.
Could you do us a favor and maybe work with UTV TSC administration so that maybe we can provide the Board of Trustees some kind of status report on this item to see what we paid and what we're projecting in the future?
Okay.
Just so we know where we are with that line item.
We'll do that.
Appreciate it. Item number 9, consideration and approval of budget amendments for fiscal year 2012. I again call on Mr. Chet Lewis, Vice President of Administration and Finance, to present this item. Mr. Lewis.
At our last regular meeting, we had approved the project for Dynamic Campus, and because of that, we indicated we were going to do a budget amendment to make sure we moved some money to make sure that that item was covered within the budget. This is not an increase of the total budget, but it's just a reallocation from savings that we had on our insurance line over into the consulting, and this is the amount that we'll need for the contract for this current fiscal year. Any of the remaining part of the contract will be included in next year's budget.
So we've got a request by Mr. Lewis to approve budget amendment number 12-004 fiscal year 2012 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion by Mr. Torres. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second by Mr. Hinojosa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Item number 10, report on third quarter financial and investment report for fiscal year 2012. I again call on Mr. Lewis.
Including within your agenda packet, we have the third quarter financial statements and investment report for the fiscal year 2012. This is the normal report that we would give for the quarterly information. As a reminder, there's a lot of the activity is related to things that are still within the partnership. So when you look at things like tuition and fees and the state appropriations, those are still within the parameters of the partnership. And so when we receive the reporting information, the revenue that we receive is remitted in accordance with that contract. For all the other items, we are within budget now that we have made the budget adjustment for the one item we just finished up. I'm here to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the third quarter financials? Good job. No questions.
All right.
No action necessary on this item?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Item number 11, adjournment announcement of next meetings.
That was fast.
The next meeting date is proposed for Thursday, June 19th, 2012.
June.
I mean July. Thank you, ma'am. Thursday, July 19th, 2012. I will now entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved. I got a motion by Mr. Hinojosa, second by Ms. Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned. Thank you.